Good morning, everyone. It is Monday, August 24th, 2020. Time to take a break with Drake. It's that time. It's early enough. It's right on time today. Going back into the book of Corinthians on today's break.
Yes, we have been in Corinthians for several weeks now. I was asked to speak on Galatians earlier this summer, and so I did that, and that comes right on the heels of Corinthians, and I thought, well, we'll just go through Corinthians. It's the it was it was the church that you would say is placed in San Francisco.
As is, and people still needed to hear about the Lord there. Hey, Aaron Wickland, good morning.
Yes. Corinthians was the church placed in San Francisco. Now, if you're a pastor in San Francisco, you have a slightly different assignment than if you're pastoring in Oklahoma City or Wichita, where it's, well, this is what we do out here. We just do Jesus and we go to church. I was in New York, 30-something years ago, finishing my grad work and such. And this New York cop, now, a New York cop, this guy ain't a panty waist, man. This guy is big and tough and strong and lethal and great guy, gentleman, beautiful family and the whole bit. But he told me stories on that. Oh, my word. But he said, yeah, when I was in Oklahoma for a bit, you just turn on the radio on Sunday morning. Okay, welcome to all of you. Hey, if you're going to the early service today, there's going to be rain between 7 a.m. and 9 a.m. If you're going to the 11 o'clock service, this is just the radio of the city. We do church out here. Well, in Corinth, they kind of just didn't. They didn't have a heritage in that. And the new believers came into church kind of, wiping the ungodliness off their face. Oh, yeah, we follow Jesus now. Okay, yeah, whoa. It was a different crowd. No orientation. Paul is discipling these people, cold turkey. They're just a different bunch. And he's got to do a whole lot of deep background stuff. And this has to happen. One thing I learned in studying New Testament, I. Howard Marshall, University of Aberdeen, Scotland, wrote New Testament interpretation, and he said, you can't just take what's being said there and just say, oh, that's what that means here. You need to know what it meant to those people back then, what was going on then, and what's being addressed to them then. And once you understand that entire atmosphere, then you can transliterate that to today's culture. You can't take a New Testament phrase and go, oh, I know what it means. Well, if you don't know what it meant in the original intent, you can't be sure. So anyhow, what Paul says to the Corinthian church can be said to all the people that are coming out of ungodliness worldwide today. You think we don't have ministry on our hands today? We have a generation now that thinks it's kind of fun to burn things and break things and just beat up anybody they want. These BLM people are beating up black people because Black Lives Matter. I'm killing black people. This is going on now. It was such an ungodly mash today in our culture, and it's very similar to trying to reach Corinthians with the gospel.
Good morning, Lindsay.
Lindsay! Paul did it. It can be done. Biggest thing I learned in Israel, finishing college in Israel, Jerusalem University. I was there for several weeks. I've been in Israel a total of 5 weeks of my life. I'd like to live there and work there. And maybe after my 70th birthday, I'll go and volunteer at the tomb for a year or two. Maybe your wife will want to do that with me. But I realized Abraham pleased the Lord, David pleased the Lord, Elijah pleased the Lord, Elisha pleased the Lord, Isaiah pleased the Lord. I can too. Don't think those guys are way up there. I love that passage. Late in the New Testament, it says, Elijah was a man just like you. Look what he did because he let the power of God come over him. 1 Corinthians 15, and when we reached this a week or so ago, I said, you know something? I want to give the backstory on this resurrection. So we went through Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John's resurrection testimonies. We spent 2 days on the John part. Back to 1 Corinthians 15, where we give the biggest entire explanation of the resurrection. It's actually bigger than it's bigger than Matthew's and Mark's and Luke's. It may not be bigger than John's, but...
Good morning, Elisa. This is the day the Lord has made.
Elisa, dear. Now, brothers, 1 Corinthians 15, I want to remind you of the gospel I preached to you. Why does he have to remind them? To remind somebody. You know, when you get on the subway in England, it's called the Tube. It's the underground tube. It says, mind the gap. Don't step in that crack between the end of the curb and the start of the train. It's like this wide, but be mindful of it. Mind the gap. Keep your mind on that. Paul has
don't drop your pence in there.
Yeah. He has to remind them. When you remind somebody, it was in their mind before, but it kind of disintegrated in their thinking. They need to be reminded. Remind is a verb. To mind is a verb. When they tell you to mind the gap on the tube in London, the tube, keep your mind on this thing. Don't go, oh, gee, because you could break your foot in there or whatever. Just be mindful of it. To recognize something, to recog. When something is in your memory, it's like a coat that's hung on a hook, and you've got your whole collection of coats. Yep, I got the brown one, I got the fuzzy one, I got the one I use in the springtime, the one I use in the dead of winter, the one I use in snow, the one I use when it's rain, and these are all on cogs. And to recog, oh yeah, that you recognize it. Don't forget what these words mean. Oh, I remember. 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 If you go to a club and you're a member there, like, hey, good to see you again. They know you. If you're not a member there, what? Hello, can I help you? They talk to you completely differently. This isn't a new thought to them. If you're new to a club and you want to become a member there, okay, you get your card, you pay your dues, your fees. Some of these clubs that people join cost $50,000, especially some of these elite golf clubs. It costs $50,000 to be a member there. And each time you come up, they remember you. You want to get to heaven, you have to make your reservations now to be a member up there so that when you get there, they remember you. Remember, you're not there yet, but you make your membership now when you embrace the resurrection of Christ. And God will remember you. You are recognized. You're recogged. We need to be reminded. Don't let these words slip you. Now, brothers, I want to remind you of the gospel I preached to you, which you received, on which you have taken your stand. I preached it, you received it. When I first told you about this, you didn't go, I doubt that. Nobody comes back from the dead. He reminds them because he preached to them, they received it, and they stood upon it. I take my stand. This is what I do. Paul opens the book of Romans, and in chapter 1, he said, I'm not ashamed of the gospel. Why does he got to say that phrase? It's because he's teaching to these people, these new believers, some in synagogues and some beyond that too, because house churches were just booming all over the place. They didn't build church buildings. They just had churches in homes based on fellowship, the apostles' doctrine, dining together and praying together. They taught the doctrine of the apostles. They dined, prayed, and fellowshiped together. That was church. And it's growing because of this concept. And he says, by this gospel you are saved. But you have to hold on to it. Yeah, I believe that once. And I talk to people, hey, where's your church? Are you a believer? Are you in the faith? Yeah, I was baptized as a child. Okay, that wasn't your decision. That was your parents' decision. You have to hold on to this thing. We had a rock climber speak at our church once, and that rope is everything. That rope is everything. No rope, you may well not survive this thing. And I remember he said, you tie off your rope to this thing is, I don't know what's going on. Can you hear me, honey?
Oh, yeah, I can hear you fine.
Okay, fine.
It's just you may not be able to hear me.
I'm tired of this dingo thing.
Okay.
It keeps going in and out.
You can just pull it out and just put it behind your back.
Oh, it looks cool. It looks like Mr. Billingsley.
Well, when it's not in your ear, I don't know. It doesn't look... It looks a little weird when it's just dangling there.
All right. This rock climber, he says, you tie off to some tree up on top or a big rock that's 30, 40 times the weight of you, so you don't just pull the rock off the cliff with you. And you stand on the edge and you pull tight and you lean out over the edge. That rope, hang on to that rope. And if your strength fails, it's clipped onto you too. But you got to have both. And then you just give yourself some slack and you just jump off. And then you land about 8-10 feet below the edge of the cliff. But you've got to just jump and hold on. You've jumped on this gospel thing, and you've got to hold on to it. That is a whale of an if there. By this you are saved, if you hold firmly, if you hold firmly to what I preached. You know, after you jump off, you go, let the rope go. You don't survive. Hang on to what Paul's preached to you, or you're not going to survive this. You've got that if, like, oh my goodness, you've got to hang on to this. For what I received, verse 3, I passed on to you as of first importance. Paul had these revelations, and the first thing he wants to do, he goes, oh, this is so nice. I'm just going to sit here wherever I am in the empire. Sometimes I'm in jail. And it's just so important that I just be at peace. No, I've got to pass this on. Paul is getting the freshest, biggest, most vital downloads, revelations from the Lord, and he says, I've got to pass this on. I pass this on to you as of first importance. What did he pass on? That Christ died for our sins according to the Scriptures, that he was buried, and that he was raised on the third day according to the Scriptures. Scriptures. What? He's talking living Scripture to them right then. But what Scriptures? Here they are. This is a quick overview of the 49 prophecies, the Scriptures that Christ has been crucified, buried, dead, and this is just to whip through. This is in here. Thank you, Aaron, for helping me along in building my collection for this. But on page 129 of the first one, we've got 49 of the references that Christ was dead and buried. The yellow ones, the blue ones, the baby blue is a 500-year-old prophecy. When the prophecy is 800 years or more, it's in yellow. If the prophecy is 1,200 years or more, it's in green. 500 blue, 800 yellow, 1,200 green. I could just stare at these things all day. I just love this stuff. But these are the scriptures. 49 of them said that he was going to be crucified, dead, buried, and rose again. So there's 49 references to this in the scriptures all the way back to Genesis. And there's 88 references in the New Testament that he went through this experience, that he died according to the scriptures, he was buried according to the scriptures, that he was raised again according to the scriptures, and what else happened, and that he appeared. There's something I'm going to tell you in just a minute here that I think has missed a lot of people. When I went to Bible college at 17, and then 18, 19, I really got into it. I'd been a Christian for well over a decade. I've been a Christian for 15 years or so. But something I'm going to tell you, right, it missed me. How did this miss me? It's kind of like Paul saying to the Corinthians, how could you be forgetting about the resurrection so quickly? Where's your mind? Come on. It's all over the scriptures. And it happened. Proof that it happened. And he appeared to Peter. And then to the 12. And when he says the 12, remember, one of the times Thomas wasn't there. One of the times Judas, the rest of the time Judas wasn't there. So he appeared to the 10. And then Thomas was there, so he appeared to the 11. But Paul just uses the phrase the 12, because it's the disciples. Oh yeah, those guys. So don't get hung. Oh, the number's not consistent with the actual number. He's not doing a math class here. He's saying that he appeared to the whole group. And the group was always called the 12. So he appeared to Peter. Did he appear to Peter first? We talked about this all last week, and sometimes up to 2 weeks ago, he appeared to Mary Magdalene first. But he's got to say that he appeared to Peter. You go to Rome today, the tribute to Peter. Wow. What has been built in Peter and Paul's name? Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. He appeared to Peter and then to the 12. After that, he appeared to more than 500 of the brothers at the same time, most of whom are still living, though some have fallen asleep. Some have died, yes, but most of these 500 that Jesus appeared to, they're still alive. Did you forget that? It's easy to forget that. I saw that when I was 19 or 20, and I feel like I'm seeing it for the very first time. He appeared to 500? Now, he appeared to, the amount of people following Jesus, we're focusing on the 12 most of the time. Sometimes the ladies that were there too, and these ladies took care of Jesus. Jesus didn't have to think about a thing. When you were growing up, you did not have to think about breakfast or lunch or dinner. A lady, your mother, thought this through for you. I just remembered this weekend. I went to an event once when I was 10, and my mother was occupied that day, and I didn't think about lunch, and I skipped lunch, and then I went to an event this afternoon and went into the evening. I hadn't eaten since breakfast, and I am clawing my own stomach. I'm thinking, I feel like I'm going to die. I'm so hungry. I didn't think about lunch or dinner. I didn't plan ahead. I'm going to need this and that because I don't plan like that. Jesus didn't have to think about his food. These ladies took care of it for him. So he could totally focus on ministry. That's so touching that Joanna, Mary, Salome, Kuza, these ladies just took care of him. Would you be willing to do that? I sure would have been willing to do that. But he appeared to 500 and more at the same time, most of whom are still living. Paul is writing this in the early mid 54 BC. Jesus had died 25 years prior. And a lot of these 500 are still alive. So you can say this now. You can't make this statement today. Okay, that's what I said about New Testament interpretation a few minutes ago. But back then you could. It says, then he appeared to James. Then to all the apostles, which was another appearance to the apostles. Can you imagine him appearing to James? This is his brother. Can you imagine him appearing to his own brother? And there he is. James. Hey, Jimmy. Hey. It's me. It's me. It's really me. This thing is really real. This resurrection. He so believed it. And he so followed this to the end that years later they threatened to kill James unless he turns on Jesus. His own brother, James, no way. Kill me if that's what you need to do. And they did. They killed him in Jerusalem. I have seen the spot where they threw him off. I've seen the spot where James landed, and he still didn't die. And so they shish kebabbed him till he was gone. James, I'm not changing, because his brother is his Savior. I mean, this stuff, like, oh man. He appeared to James and to the 12, the apostles again. And last of all, Paul talking here, he appeared to me also, as to one abnormally born. Abnormally born. This Jewish club, this clan is growing, and Paul was a Pharisee. Then he's joining the church, and Paul walks in. You used to kill us. Well, what are you doing here? You know, when someone's in a family and someone just looks different than the rest of the kids, you think, is the milkman your dad? This stuff happens. I knew this family, 12 kids, and all kids looked. There was one that didn't look like the rest of them. It was one of their kids, but genetically this stuff happens. So Paul says, hey, I'm the redheaded stepchild that gets beaten. I know. I don't even deserve to be here. I used to try to kill these people. I did send some of them to their own execution, to the death, and I arrested these people in this church. I'm the enemy of this place, but now I've got top status. Hey, I'm not claiming to get it. Yeah, he appeared to me. Verse 9. For I am the least of the apostles, and I don't deserve to even be called an apostle. Paul is humble. The smartest man in the room is the most humble man in the room. I don't even deserve to be called apostle because I persecuted the church of God, but by the grace of God, I am what I am. God, in his kindness, allows me to this position. Why he speaks to me so much, so clearly, so starkly, so amazingly, I don't pretend to get it. I'm the least. I don't deserve to be here, but God's grace. And by his grace to me was not without effect. No, it wasn't. I am so overwhelmed by the grace of this resurrected Lord that I work harder than all of them. And he immediately covers himself. I work harder than you. I do more than you. I write more than you. I hear from God more than you. He's not saying that. I work harder than all of them, yet it's by the grace of God. He punches that again. Right 2 verses later, he says it again. It's by God's grace that got me here. Whether then it was I or they, or whoever, however you got this explained to you, I am reminding you. Maybe one of these 500 told you he came back from the dead. I know he did. Whether it was I that first told you or one of them that first told you, it doesn't matter. This is what we preach, and this is what you believed. At some point you said, hey, he rose from the dead. I hang on to him, I will too. Wow. This is what you believed. There were people that are already starting to, other people would come in and hear about God or the gospel or the church, and they believe that their lead guy came back from the dead. Right. That never happens. That doesn't happen. It can't happen. You attach yourself to the resurrected Christ, you will be resurrected too. You know one of the ways of executing people back then? They would take a person who was condemned to die, and they could put him on a cross like they did, or they could... There's 50 ways to execute somebody. Sometimes they would take a dead body and clamp it to a person like a piggyback ride, and clamp his legs together around him, and clamp his arms over him.
You're really distorting your mic, by the way, when you're doing that.
Okay. It was not good. It was the most horrible way to go. That's why Paul says, who will deliver me from this body of death? He's talking about the people that would get executed this way. That dead person, the death virus, would go on and kill the living person. It's beyond a horror show, horrible way to go. That death attached to you makes the condemned person die too. On that same note, on the converse, on the other side, if you attach yourself to the resurrected Christ, you will be resurrected as well. This is the thinking that everybody knew about back then. We don't even think this way today. But Paul wants us to understand this, because if we attach ourselves to the resurrected Christ, we will be raised again too. And just a collateral thought, he appeared to the 500 plus. He appeared to well over 500 people. Do you know he never stomped back into Herod's quarters and said, the guy you killed, here I am again. He never went back into Pilate. He never went back into Ananias, Caiaphas, the Sanhedrin, all the Pharisees. He never went into the entire panel. He never went back to the Romans that executed him and said, killed me. I guess it didn't work, did it? He never did that. You don't want to know? He never tried to prove himself. He went to those that wanted to believe, that wanted to have a hope in God again. That's who he appeared to. He appears to us as well. We feel it. We hear it. Some see it. I know people that have seen a vision of Jesus, just to encourage them through extremely difficult times. One guy I knew was in prison in squalid, horrible conditions in Asia. Christ appeared to him and got him through it. This is the resurrected Christ. And if we embrace this, we will rise from the dead too. 1 Corinthians 15, it's such a full... Tomorrow we talk about the resurrection of the dead and all the ideas that surround that. Paul explains this. And then we'll talk about the resurrected body. Yes, we will rise in body. Not in essence, we're just going to be kind of floating ghosts that play checkers in heaven. No, we will have a body. We will be able to hug each other in heaven. We will be able to sing and worship in heaven. We will dine in heaven. Ghosts don't dine. So that's what's going to be tomorrow, the resurrection of the dead. Wednesday, the resurrected body. All these things that Paul amazingly explains to the Corinthians. And guess what? We're invited into that same arena so we can know it too. And that's what we say for us today. If you'd like to support this and keep this thing going, we welcome that. We really do. It would be a great blessing.
I clearly need to get you a better earpiece.
And Serena will post that.
Yeah, that's right. It's up there. Go to draketravis.com/partners.
So that, but know this about the resurrected Christ. All authority has been given him on heaven and on earth. And with that voice, he speaks to you, and we can go throughout the world with all authority. Change the minds of prime ministers and change the minds of people who are sitting on a park bench who've given up on life. It changes all ends of the spectrum of society and everyone in between. Let's embrace this Jesus. Let's walk with him, live for him, let him speak to us, and let's speak for him. We'll see you tomorrow.